The cold gnawed at her bones like a jealous rival. She pulled her furred companion tighter against her chest, the little creature's body trembling with the same resignation that shook her. The wreckage behind them burned faintly, twisted metal coughing out black smoke that smeared the sky. Snowflakes fell lazily, as if the universe wanted to watch her death unfold in slow motion. She whispered to the pet, "At least we'll die together, my little one. Better than dying alone." The creature responded with a pitiful chirp, followed by the most inappropriate squeaky fart. The sound echoed embarrassingly in the quiet wasteland, and she actually laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh. Wonderful. My last words to the cosmos will be accompanied by gas. How dignified. She tugged at her thin wrap, unfastening it from her own shoulders to cocoon the pet. Her bare skin stiffened instantly, nipples hard enough to scratch glass. She looked down at them, grimaced, and muttered, "Perfect. My tombstone will read, 'Here lies the girl who died with weapons of mass distraction pointing at the sky.'" She sat back against a shard of metal, breath fogging, muscles weakening. The pet burrowed deeper into her arms, its nose wet and cold. She stroked its fur gently, though her fingers had started to feel like wood. "They'll say I died bravely," she murmured, her voice trembling, clutching my furry little thing. She paused, snorted at her own phrasing, and corrected herself. "That sounds filthier than I meant it." The world around her blurred. She was drifting. Her people's epics always ended with martyrs giving poetic speeches before death, their words etched into history. She tried to mimic them. She raised her chin and recited in a dramatic tone, "I die not as a victim, but as a," her teeth chattered violently, "as a freezing idiot who should have packed more layers." The pet sneezed into her chest, snot dampening her skin. "Oh, thank you, yes, let me enter the afterlife sticky. Exactly how I dreamed of going." Her lips curled into a delirious smile. In her mind, she pictured the grand tale. She sacrificed everything for the love of her pet. Except she also knew someone would twist it into gossip. She died cuddling something fuzzy and moaning about how warm it was. Future generations would make jokes about her. A death less noble and more laughable. She imagined bards singing bawdy tavern songs in her honor. The girl and her furry friend went stiff in the snow. Her vision swam darker. She pulled the pet even closer, pressing its fur against her chest, trying to share warmth it didn't have. The creature squeaked pitifully. She kissed the top of its head, whispering, "It's not your fault. You're the only thing I've ever loved that didn't let me down." Her breath faltered. The snow kissed her bare shoulders, icy needles against her flushed skin. Her body shook, not from courage but from surrender. She closed her eyes. "If there are gods, please let someone find our bodies. And please, don't let them laugh at the way I'm holding him. It's not what it looks like." A ragged chuckle escaped her throat. She knew she was lying to herself. It was exactly what it looked like. A girl clutching her furry companion with an intimacy that would give priests and children awkward questions to ask. Her lips parted for final words. "Farewell, universe. May you remember me not for how I died, but for," she trailed off, her breath frosting faintly, "for how perky I looked doing it." The pet wriggled weakly, pressing its snout into her chest as if trying to burrow into her heart. She stroked it one last time, her body trembling too violently to control. "Don't worry," she whispered faintly. "We'll go together. They'll find us locked in an embrace, tragic and beautiful," she coughed, grimaced. "Or at least tragic. The beautiful part is debatable." The snow thickened, falling harder, coating her hair, her lashes. The flames from the wreck behind them flickered against her fading consciousness. Her body went slack. The pet whimpered. The girl tilted her head back, preparing to release her last breath into the cold, merciless air. And as her lips formed the final, grand words she thought might echo into eternity, "Let this be my noble," her voice cracked, reduced to a whisper. "Noble, nipple, oh gods, I can't even die with dignity." Her laugh was choked, a mixture of madness and acceptance. Tears burned her eyes, freezing at the corners. She felt herself slipping, clutch weakening. The pet squealed, pressing against her. Her body sagged, her breath stilled, her eyes closed. For a moment, she was certain this was it. The final curtain, the cosmic joke ending with her as the punchline. She leaned her head back against the twisted metal, resigned. But somewhere in the haze of snow and firelight, she thought she heard footsteps crunching. Too heavy for an animal. Too steady for her imagination. A figure loomed in the distance, blurred by frost and tears. Her lips parted in disbelief. "No," she whispered faintly. "Not now. Too late. I already made my death speech. You can't just walk in during the credits." Her head lolled to the side, eyes half shut, still clinging to her furry companion. The figure moved closer. The last coherent thought she had before darkness edged her vision was bitterly comical. If that's a human, he'd better not trip and land on me. That would be the worst possible way to ruin my tragic exit. Her breath hitched. The snow muffled everything except her heartbeat, weak but still drumming. She smirked faintly at her own bitter humor, whispering to the pet, "If he falls on us, at least you can bite his balls for me." Her voice faded into silence, leaving only the hiss of wind, the crackle of fire, and the approaching crunch of boots. Her grand farewell was interrupted by the most ridiculous sound imaginable, the crunch of heavy boots, followed by a yelp and the thud of a body hitting the snow. She cracked one eye open, expecting an angel, a god, or perhaps hallucination. Instead, she saw a man in bulky gear sprawled face first in the snowbank, arms flailing like a turtle flipped upside down. She blinked, utterly unimpressed. "Really? The universe sends me a rescuer, and he's trying to mate with the ground." The man lifted his head, snow clinging to his stubble, his breath puffing steam. He groaned and muttered, "Don't worry, I meant to do that." His voice was deep but carried the exact amount of embarrassment that ruined any attempt at heroics. She stared at him, pet squirming against her chest, then sighed dramatically. "So this is it. My grand death scene upstaged by a human performing slapstick." The man pushed himself up, brushing snow off his chest plate, and tried to straighten with dignity. His attempt failed instantly. He stepped forward, hit a hidden patch of ice, and stumbled again. This time he barreled straight toward her, arms flailing, eyes wide. Before she could react, his body collided with hers, sending both of them toppling backward into the snow. The pet squealed furiously, crushed between them like a furry pancake. She groaned, squashed beneath the full weight of his armored bulk, and snapped, "Is that your rescue technique? Because from where I'm lying, it feels more like a bad pickup line." The human lifted his head, inches from hers, cheeks flushed from cold and embarrassment. "Technically, it's called saving your life. Heroics come in many forms." She arched an eyebrow, her breath warm against his lips. "Heroics? You fell on me like a drunk after his 5th glass of moonshine. If you wanted me pinned beneath you, you could have just asked." The pet squeaked indignantly, wriggling between them. The man shifted his weight, grimacing. Okay, this looks worse than it is." Her eyes flicked downward, deliberately lingering, then back to his. "It looks exactly like it is. A human straddling me while my pet watches. You've ruined the tragic poetry of my death. Now, instead of being remembered as a noble figure in the snow, I'll be remembered as the woman who died in a threesome gone wrong." He coughed, caught between defending his dignity and laughing at the absurdity. "In my defense, you're not dead yet." "Oh, joy," she said dryly, shoving at his chest plate. "I get to be squashed into the afterlife slowly. Romantic." He finally rolled off her, landing beside her in the snow. She sat up, pulling her pet close again, glaring at him while trying not to shiver. "So what's next, human? Do you plan to rescue me by falling on me a few more times? Maybe grind me into the ice for extra warmth?" He grinned, surprisingly unoffended. "I mean, body heat is a real survival technique." She choked on a laugh, then glared harder, cheeks flushing from more than cold. "Don't you dare suggest I strip down and cuddle with you. My culture doesn't call that survival, it calls it marriage." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly entertained. Well, that would make me the most efficient husband ever. First day on the job, already saving your life. She sputtered, her dignity unraveling faster than her resolve to die tragically. Efficient husband? You just face-planted into my noble death like a clumsy oaf. If you're my husband, then I'm demanding a divorce before the honeymoon. The pet squeaked again, its tail twitching irritably against her chest. The human pointed at it. Does the marriage come with the pet? Or is it a package deal? She narrowed her eyes, voice dripping with sarcasm. Yes, it comes with the pet. His part of the dowry. Try not to crush him again, or he'll bite something you'd prefer kept intact. The man shifted uncomfortably, muttering, noted. Then he glanced her up and down, realizing how little she wore in the freezing weather. His expression sobered. You're going to freeze solid if we don't get you somewhere warmer. Her laugh was sharp, laced with bitterness. Oh, really? I hadn't noticed, what with my skin going numb and my nipples auditioning as ice picks. Thank you, human, for your brilliant observation. He smirked. Well, at least you won't have to worry about sagging when you're older. She gasped, scandalized, then laughed despite herself. You arrogant bastard. He shrugged. Hey, humor keeps you alive. Laughing burns calories. Calories keep you warm. Her teeth chattered, but her lips curled into a reluctant smile. Fine. You're annoying enough to keep me alive. Congratulations, human. You've turned my dramatic death scene into a comedy sketch. The pet squealed in agreement, nuzzling into her. She tightened her hold on it, glaring at the man again. You better not expect gratitude. You ruined my perfect last words. He leaned back in the snow, grinning like a man who enjoyed every second of irritating her. Tell you what, I'll let you practice your dying speech again later. I'll even clap this time. Her jaw dropped, then she burst out laughing, half from delirium, half from the absurdity. Gods help me, you're impossible. The man's grin softened into something warmer, though still playful. Good thing you ran into me then. Impossible is kind of my specialty. She looked at him, really looked, and felt an odd warmth that wasn't from body heat. He was ridiculous, clumsy, far from the heroic image she'd hoped for. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what she needed. She shook her head, muttering, If I survive this, I'm telling everyone the human was dashing, tall, and graceful. He snorted. So, basically the opposite of me. She smirked. Exactly. No one would believe the truth. Too embarrassing. The pet chirped again, as if in agreement. They both laughed, the sound carrying over the snow, defying the silence of death she'd prepared herself for. The human sat up, brushing frost from his hair. Well then, Miss Noble Death Speech, let's not waste any more time. You're freezing, and I'm too handsome to die of hypothermia. Let's move. She snorted, hugging her pet tighter, still shaking but no longer resigned. Handsome? If that's your idea of flirting, human, we're both doomed. He winked. Don't worry. My timing may be terrible, but I always deliver in the end. She rolled her eyes, laughing again, even as the snow stung her cheeks. Maybe her story wasn't ending after all. Maybe it was just beginning, and thanks to this idiot, it was going to be a comedy. The blizzard outside howled like some drunk alien karaoke singer who'd forgotten the lyrics. Inside the cramped shelter, the human was peeling off his frost-crusted jacket, steam rising from his shoulders, while the alien girl sat with her pet cradled in her lap, glaring at him like he'd just walked in on her shower. You ruined my heroic death scene, she muttered, stroking her shivering pet. He smirked. What, you had a whole speech rehearsed? Don't worry, I can give you another chance to die dramatically later. She rolled her eyes, but her lips twitched, the first crack in her icy composure. The pet sneezed, and the sneeze mist froze mid-air. They both stared, then laughed at how absurd their situation was, two species, one creature, and a shelter that smelled like wet fur and desperation. When she shifted closer to the small heater he'd rigged up, their shoulders brushed, and she froze harder than the storm outside. Careful, she said. Your skin is too warm. He raised an eyebrow. That's the complaint? Usually women tell me I'm too cold in bed. She blinked, then coughed into her hand, cheeks glowing. You're insufferable. You mean charming. He leaned back against the wall with that smug grin only humans seem to weaponize. Her pet squeaked as if agreeing, or maybe begging for less tension in the room. She muttered something about humans having no sense of dignity. Dignity doesn't keep you warm, he replied. But body heat does. Unless you'd rather keep clutching your pet while I freeze my ass off. She glanced down at her furry companion, then back at him, then muttered, fine. But only for survival. His smirk widened. That's what they all say. When she reluctantly pressed against him, she expected awkward stiffness, but he wrapped his arm around her casually, like it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. The warmth was overwhelming, his heart beat steady, and his humor relentless. See? I told you. Humans are excellent space heaters. Multipurpose too, cooks, cleans, makes bad jokes, and if you ask nicely, I even purr. She snorted before she could stop herself. Humans don't purr. That's because you haven't tried hard enough. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with a mix of embarrassment and the undeniable heat between them. She buried her face against his chest, muttering, You're impossible. And yet, you're still holding on. He whispered it just soft enough to sound less like a tease and more like a dare. Her pet climbed into her lap, wedged between them, glaring at him with round alien eyes. He leaned down and whispered to the creature, Sorry, buddy, looks like it's a package deal. You're the third wheel. The alien girl gasped, half offended, half choking back laughter. Did you just insult my bonded companion? He shrugged. I treat him like family. That's how humans do it. Equal opportunity teasing. She shook her head, unable to stop the laugh that burst free. It came out melodic, shaking the walls of her stubborn pride. He grinned at the sound, secretly cataloguing it like treasure. Then she whispered, more to herself than to him, Why did it have to be a human? He tilted her chin up with a finger, his expression briefly serious. Because no one else would have shown up. Her breath caught, her guard dropping, but before the mood could fully shift into something tender, he smirked again. Besides, aliens are always saying humans pop up at the worst possible time. At least I'm consistent. The heater flickered, the storm outside raged, and in that tiny space, their banter became less about survival and more about something raw. She accused him of ruining her noble death. He accused her of dramatic overacting. She mocked his clumsy entrance, and he teased her about needing a warm-blooded mattress. Every jab carried a second edge, every laugh dipped in suggestion. By the time exhaustion crept in, she found herself leaning into his chest not because she had to, but because it was easier than pulling away. He looked down at her tangled hair, at her stubborn frown even in sleep, and muttered softly, Worst timing, best company. The pet sneezed again, as if sealing the contract. Morning came without sunlight, just a dull gray glow that seeped through cracks in the shelter. The storm had calmed, but the cold lingered like an unwanted guest. The alien girl stirred first, realizing she was still pressed against the human, her pet wedged between them like a hostage in some interspecies cuddle war. She blinked, disoriented, then frowned when she felt his breath against her ear. Sleep well, Snow Princess, he whispered, voice husky from the chill. She pushed at his chest, but her palm lingered longer than necessary. You talk too much, she muttered. He grinned, stretching with shameless laziness. Get used to it. Humans don't shut up. That's why the universe keeps trying to kill us. Survival of the loudest. She rolled her eyes, but the smirk tugging at her lips betrayed her. Her pet wriggled free and trotted to the corner, leaving them closer than she intended. He noticed the flush still on her cheeks, and instead of making a joke, he studied her. Last night you looked ready to die, he said softly. Now you look alive again. Guess I'm doing something right. She scoffed, but her throat tightened. Don't flatter yourself. You're warm, that's all. His eyebrow rose. Warm and charming. Admit it. She turned away, hiding the grin she couldn't suppress. But he leaned closer, voice dropping, words laced with humor and something darker. Careful, alien. Keep cuddling a human, and people might think we're involved. She shot back instantly. No one would believe I'd lower myself. He chuckled. Then good thing we're snowed in. No one to ruin your reputation. The conversation turned sharper, laced with innuendo that skated along the line of argument and flirtation. She accused him of being crude. He reminded her humans had a gift for turning tragedy into comedy, hunger into banter, death into a bad pickup line. That's not a gift, she said. That's insanity. He smirked, brushing snow off his sleeve. Insanity keeps us interesting. When she laughed, really laughed this time, no restraint, it startled them both. He leaned back, satisfied. See? You needed a human. Admit it. She bit her lip, shook her head. I needed heat. I didn't ask for all this nonsense. But you got it anyway, he said, eyes glinting. That's humanity in a nutshell. You don't order us, but we show up, usually late, usually loud, but right when it matters. The shelter was thinning of supplies, the heater coughing its last sparks, and he knew they'd have to move soon. But instead of strategizing, they fell into rhythm, her fixing his sloppy knots, him mocking her dramatic posture, the two of them sparring with words that always circled back to the same undertone. The storm had trapped them, but instead of bitterness, it birthed a strange intimacy. She teased him about ruining her grand sacrifice. He teased her about clutching her pet tighter than she ever clutched him. If you're jealous of a furball, you're more pathetic than I thought, she shot. He grinned. Hey, competition is competition. Her pet squeaked, glaring at him, and the human whispered to it again. You keep getting in the way, little guy. She'll figure out eventually that humans are better to hold. She smacked his shoulder, laughing despite herself. You are unbearable. You're still here, he said simply. When they finally stepped outside, the snow was deep, glittering like a frozen ocean. She stumbled once, and he caught her, holding her longer than necessary. See? Gallant rescuer mode. I can do serious when I want to. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. And when do you ever want to? Never, he admitted with a grin. But for you, I'll fake it. Her chest tightened in a way she didn't expect. They trudged together, her pet tucked safely in her arms, and he deliberately walked slower, matching her steps, even when she snapped, Don't slow down for me. He answered, Too late. I already did. She hated how her heart responded to that. Hated it and needed it. By the time they reached safer ground, exhaustion dragged at them both, but the dynamic had shifted. She no longer looked at him as an intruder, but as something annoyingly reliable. And he, though still cracking jokes, kept stealing glances like he couldn't believe she was real. When she caught him looking, she smirked. You ruined my dramatic ending. Now what do I do with you? He leaned in close, voice low, teasing but edged with sincerity. Simple. You start a beginning instead. She stared, flustered, pet squeaking between them like a chaperone. He grinned, leaning back, ruining the gravity of his own words with a wink. And hey, if you get cold again, you know where to find me. Warmth guaranteed, bad jokes included. She shook her head, laughing despite the weight in her chest. Humans. Worst timing. Worst humor. Worst everything. He gave her a sideways smile. And yet, somehow, your best chance. The pet sneezed again, as if giving the final punchline. She groaned, but laughter bubbled up anyway, spilling into the cold morning. He joined her, and their voices cut through the silence of the snow, proof that even in the bleakest storms, humans had a way of dragging life, and laughter, back into the world. Word count, ~1008.